All right, hello again. So in this video, we're going to go over a little bit of constraints in Figma, and constraints are a way that you can kind of pin things to sides of frames and things like that and have them stretch and move, and it's kind of useful for responsive design. So we're going to kind of go over the basics of it, play around with it, go over the basics of it here, and then play around with it up here a little bit, see how you can use it in a mobile layout, or if you're experimenting with different sizes, layouts, and things like that. Then we'll do a grid. This is the same grid that we did, I think, before with a fixed width, like from Bootstrap, but you can also make a flexible grid too. So we'll do that. And then we'll kind of assemble kind of a rudimentary kind of fun landing page. Maybe it's fun. It's fun for me. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so let's look at constraints. So what constraints do is they position an item relative to the edges of its parent sort of frame. So these are all frames here. You guys have a file like this, or at least a similar one like I do. It might not be exactly the same if I find some problems. But so if I click on this, you can kind of see that these lines, right? This is telling me that this has constraints set to left and top, which I think is the default most of the time. So if I look over here on the right, you can see the constraints. You can change constraints by either selecting from the menu. So there's left, and right, center, and scale. There's also top, and bottom, center, and scale. It's a little bit weird, hard to figure out what those mean exactly until you try it. It's kind of a little good experimentation. You can also click around these guys here, and you see as I click, the little dashed lines change, so it tells you how it's configured or how it's has constrained. You can also click in the center. So either way, you can use the drop-down menu, or you can click on the little icon dudes. Yeah, that's pretty technical, Mark. So that one's set to left top. That's usually the default. But you'll see when you add, when you're using grids and columns and things, it will sometimes change the constraints for you, thinking that it's helping you. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, in my experience. Okay, so let's set this one to top right. So it's set to top right top, and these are all different frames, by the way. You got those frames in your file, hopefully. So I'm going to go over here to the right and change that to right and top. So now, oh, I forgot to show you what happens if I resize this. So if I grab this frame and I drag, you see it's pinned to the left and top. So it's kind of measuring the distance from the sides. That's kind of the way I kind of think of it. So it's not moving relative to the top left, right? Correct? Right, so here we got, I set this to top right, and now if I grab this frame and resize, it moves with the right, it's pinned to the right side, but it stays the same distance from the top. Oh, that makes sense, right? And then we've got center. So I'm gonna grab that, I'm gonna go over here to my drop down and pick center over here on the right, where it says constraints, right? And then center, and you get a little like fun little snowflake down in the middle. And then if I click on this and resize, you see it's centered. So that's really good if a lot of times that comes up, right? You want something to just be dead center all the time, no matter how big the frame gets or whatever. That's good for that. Let's do left and right and center. So I'm gonna click on this, and then I'm gonna select left and right. And then for the horizontal, and then for the vertical, I'm gonna go center. And this one will show you that you can get distortion. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. Probably in this case, it wouldn't be that great. It even flips over, that's kind of wacky, huh? So maybe not for images in that case, but depending on what you're doing, but maybe depending if you're doing some responsive stuff, but usually you don't want to stretch images. But that is useful for things like text containers that you want to change size, responsive design stuff, right? This is more responsive design stuff. Okay, let's grab this one, scale, and we're gonna set this one to scale. And now if I resize this one, it scales in both directions. So it does distort in both directions. So it scales it, right? When it scales with the side. And then let's set this one to left. And then I know that, you can just kind of play with this and see how it works. So I set this to left and top and bottom. And you can kind of see what it looks like. It tries to tell you what's going on with the blue tabs there and here. But if I resize this guy, it's distorting vertically, but not horizontally. So, and then here we'll set to right and what did we have here? Left and right and top and bottom. So I'm going to go over here, left and right and top and bottom. And we'll see what happens. And it's going to distort that way too. So that's kind of the basics of it. And like I said, it takes a while to kind of figure out what's going to happen once you play with it for a little bit. Yeah, so let's go up to the top here and try this out. Actually borrowed / stole some of this stuff from the actual Figma video on this part. These are actually system components or components that are sort of from material.io or material design for Android. So these I think are pretty accurate as far as the sizes go of the system bar and the tab bar and an app bar. We're not going to use the app bar, I don't think. And then a little floating button, but I think we'll use our own floating button. And what we're going to do is see what you can do with constraints to make these a bit more flexible. So I'm going to grab the system bar here, right here, and drag it into this frame. Make sure it's inside the frame because that will mess things up. And then I'm going to put it up here in the top left. And then I'm going to grab the tab bar and drag it in there. I'm going to put it on the bottom left. And you can see it's not the right size yet, right? And then I'll grab our icon. This is a floating action button that you'll see like in the bottom right, but we'll just use this guy for fun because we want to be interesting. And then I'm actually going to take this guy and put it about 16 pixels away from the edge, which is, I think, a pretty standard placement for that button. So if I get it down there, and let me zoom in so you guys can see a little bit. You see that the bounding box is a little bit bigger, but I'm eyeballing it. It's pretty darn close to there. And then I'm going to go hold on Shift and go up and go. That was 10 pixels, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're moving at 16 pixels up and 16 pixels to the left. So hold on Shift again. Left arrow, that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Like how I can count. That's pretty cool, huh? Sometimes I can count. I can only count 16. That's the scary part. All right, so now we want to resize these things, right? So they don't fit this Google Pixel 2, right? So if I click on this guy and I go up to, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little better. And I grab the edge of this guy and move it right. Those icons are not moving with my system bar. So what I want to do is set the constraints to that. So I've got kind of the instructions here for you. So you want to set the system icons to right. It's supposed to be to the right. Jeez, Mark. Don't judge me, all right? So I'm going to grab these guys and I'm going to go inside the layer and just grab the icons. Make sure I can grab the right thing there. There's the icons, right? And then I'm going to set them, you can see they're set to left and top. So I'm going to click on that and now they're set to right and top. And now if I grab this guy and resize it, hey, look at that. It moves along with it. So you can see there's just a simple sort of, I'll go ahead and leave it over there. There's a simple sort of practical use of constraints there. So you can reuse elements and then have them move the way you want them to use. If you, maybe you have to make, different layouts for 4 different devices and you want yeah, now you can resize it, right? So another thing you can do is you can use columns and Figma will sort of respect the columns and sort of align with those. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in the tab bar and we're going to add a 3-column layout. So I'm going to go to click down here, right where we had layout grid. I'll click the plus, and then we want to go to make sure it's columns. And I think if I was nice, I put it. Oh no, I didn't. I think somewhere I wrote this down for you guys. Anyway. So we want to go to layout grid, click on this, and we want a margin of 16. Oh, I wrote it right there, but I thought I had it somewhere else too. And then a gutter of 35. I think that's right. And this has to be on stretch, by the way, for this to work right for this guy. So we've got, we wanted 3 columns, not 5. So we want 3 columns, stretch, 16 margin, and 35 on the gutter. And I think we are good. And then we want to set the constraints for each icon in there to center. So you can double click to kind of get to that, or you can go in and select it, right? So I just double click to get to that, and it's set to center bottom. So I can double click or click twice right there, or I could select center, same thing, and set that again. So this guy, center as well. This guy, center as well. I had to click twice on that one. And now if we did everything right, if I resize that thing, it resizes along with the columns. So that's pretty cool, right? So let's do that so that it resizes. So we also want to make sure that we're set right with the constraints on the top on both bars. So I'm going to select the bar itself, and I'm going to set the system bar restraints to left and right and top. So if I resize it, make sure that we've got that. So I'm going to go left and right and top. And then on this one, we want to set that one to scale and bottom so that it'll stay in the right place. It kind of looked like it was okay already, but now if we grab that and resize this now, it works like that, right? So this one is set to, so this is our icon, right? It's set to scale and scale. We want to set that to, instead of, we don't want it to scale, we just want it to be in the bottom right. So I'm going to grab that and set that to right and bottom. And then now if we, and I may have already resized it, but if I resize it, there we go. It moves along with that guy. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. That may have been a little bit different order than what I was thinking, but that does a pretty good job illustrating that, I think. All right, let's go ahead and move on. There might be some edits in here as well, since this is a little bit of an involved video, but none so far, I don't think. Well, yeah, we'll see. All right, so this is the grid that we made, I think, in a previous video, right? So this is a fixed grid. If we review this again, we've got 12 columns, we've got it centered, we've got a gutter, and then we've got a 65 for the width. So if I grab this frame and I resize it, right, those don't change. I'm doing Command Z to undo. The width of these don't change, right? So you can also make a, and I do have it down here, that's what I was looking for. You can also make a flexible grid. So we looked at Bootstrap, I think, in a previous video, unless we change the order of it, but you'll figure that out in a second. In a previous video, and there's different kinds of containers in Bootstrap, right? Some of them have a fixed width until you reach your breakpoint, and then some of them are fluid, meaning they resize all the time. So we kind of, this one is kind of for the one with the breakpoints where it does not change, right? If I had a layout in here, I don't really have a layout in there, but if I did, it would stay the same size until I get to another breakpoint. But we can do another layout that is flexible. So what I'm going to do is just grab this desktop one, hold down Option and bring it down and make a copy of that. And then here are the settings that we're going to use. You can see them right there. We're going to do 12 columns, stretch, and 165 margin, and a gutter of 30. So let's go back out. I'm going to click on these. I'm going to get rid of these two grids that we already have. I'm going to click on New Grid and make sure it's columns. And this time it's stretch. I think that's the default anyway. I think we changed it before. And I'm going to go 12. And then, if I remember right, 165 is the width. You have to look stuff up, right? And then 30 is the gutter. Not 20. All right, so now you can see if I shift 2 to zoom there. And then if we look at that, it looks, whoops, the same, right? So that lines up the same, but what's different now? Close this up. If I grab this guy, oh, look at that. So now they're liquid. Used to be called liquid, flexible, resize, whatever, however you want to say it. And they will resize with when we change the size of the frame. So that's what we're doing with that. So that's how we can make that resizable or flexible. All right, so now we're going to use this to do a little bit of a layout. So I have, you probably saw already, a bunch of images in there. Some of these are from a previous video, I think. And so I'll give you those. Our button and stuff, and there's some instructions over here. They might not be completely accurate, but or full featured, but we're gonna go with it anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my Option key and bring this up here and just make a copy of that guy, because we'll save this just for fun. So we have a one with the frame there on it, and so I do have the kind of instructions in there for you guys. So we're gonna make 3 versions. We're gonna make one with the grid just to lay it out first, and then we're gonna take the grid away and show you how you can use constraints and even auto layout to kind of make a little bit of responsive design. So 3 different versions here. Okay, so let's change the frame background. So I'm gonna click on the frame itself. Let's change the fill of the frame to black because it's space, right? Space, it's kind of blackish, dark, right? And then we're gonna add a rectangle for the top, kind of for the header. So I'm just gonna hit R on my keyboard, and then let's just drag this thing out here, and then I'm gonna make it about 300 pixels high. Doesn't have to be exact. Let's just go like that. We can always change it if we want to. And then I'm gonna round the corners of the bottom 2 corners of that. So I'm gonna go up here to my corner radius, and I'm gonna grab I want at the bottom right, and I'm just gonna put in 300, and I'm gonna put 300 here as well. And it doesn't, it's bigger than 300 actually, but what it ends up doing is just makes a bigger area. Yeah. Well, it's actually 300 on the corner. I think that's good. And then let's pick a fill that's kind of you can pick whatever you want, but I'm gonna pick like a dark, maybe bluish, something like that. That's going to be kind of the background for our header area. Okay, so now we're going to add some text. So I've got the text over here for you. I've got galaxies for sale, so I'm going to grab that so we don't have to type anything. Whoops, there we go. Copy, and then, oops. There we go. And then go over here, and then I'm gonna hit the type tool for T and just paste. And let's see, I'm gonna double click to select that, and I'm gonna change that to, I think we're using alpha slab 1, and I think we want a size of 96, I think. And then we're gonna go color of white, but actually it's not gonna matter a whole lot. You'll see here why in a second. So I've got galaxies for sale there, and let's move it up so it's kind of centered in that area there. And then if I look down here in my layers, let me close a few of these up so we get a lot of stuff going on here. There we go. So I've got galaxies for sale, and I'm going to copy this twice, or copy and paste. So I'm down here in my layers. I've got galaxies for sale. I'm going to copy and paste. And the reason for that is we're going to use this as a mask. So if you, I think maybe I mentioned that, but if you wanted to use, maybe in the other video, right? If you want to put some styles on some elements that you want to use as a mask, the styles kind of go away if it's being used as a mask, so you kind of have to duplicate it. So I'm going to add a stroke to it, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to add a stroke, and down here on the right, and I'll add a white stroke. And let's see, let's try 3 pixels. This is going to be rough, right? But we'll see what it looks like when we're done. And then I was going to add a drop shadow too. Let's go ahead and go down here to effects, and I'm going to add a drop shadow, and I'm going to set it to 0 offset. That's the offset, the X and Y. But we'll change the blur to 10. And I'm zoomed in the wrong spot. You guys can't see it. There we go. And then let's change the color to red. just to see. All right, so now it's got a little bit of a red. It's a little bit tough to see right now, but I think you'll see it in a second. Oop, I'm zoomed in 2 different ways. That's confusing. All right, so there I've got that. All right, so now we're gonna go up to grab this image here, and I'm going to go ahead and hold down Option and drag it into our frame, right where that was. And then kind of in that header area. And then I'm gonna make sure that that is actually right above where it says Galaxies for Sale. I think that's actually right. And then go down into the layers, if I can zoom into the right spot here. Sorry, I had to move the microphone here. And then I'm gonna grab these 2, hold down Shift, right, to select those 2. And then go up to the top and hit Use as Mask. That was up here. Let me do that again. So I've got those 2 layers, right? I've got Galaxy on top and the Galaxy picture on top. Galaxies for Sale is underneath, right there. And then I go up to Use as Mask, and then I'm gonna click. So now we can see, we've seen this before, but now I'm using Galaxies for Sale, the text as a mask. So you can use text as a mask. I don't think we've done that. So you can see now that I can see that Galaxies for Sale is filled with galaxies. That's pretty cool, right? If I want to, I could select the galaxy, and if I want to use a different piece of it, I can move it around. You see, I'm moving it around in there. Similar to that same thing would work in Photoshop. It's like a clipping group if you've used Photoshop before. I'll just leave it like that. That's good enough, I think. All right, so we've got the Galaxies for Sale, okay. So now let's make sure these all move together as one. So if we have to move that thing around, it'll move as one piece. Remember, the galaxies underneath is where the white is and the little shadow thing. So I'm gonna grab all these together and do Command Option G, and that's now a frame right there. So I just selected all of those and turned them all into a frame. So that way, if I could group them too, I guess, but now if I move that frame, right, it moves all together. It's not gonna move one set of text or the mask or whatever. It's all gonna move as one piece. That's one of the good things about the frame thing, right? All right, next thing we're gonna do is let's grab this icon again. Let me zoom out and grab this guy. This guy. Let's just hold on Option and drag him in there. And I'm going to put him up about right here. And I'm going to hold down Shift and resize and have him hang off the edge of our design. And then I'm going to change the color to white down here at the bottom. So I'm going to click on that guy and go to white. And we could change that to whatever we want. But I think that works pretty good. And remember, the good thing about an SVG is you can make it any color you want that way. We're going to add some more images in here. So I'm going to go up here and grab this giant picture of Europa. And let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can see that. I'm going to hold down Option and drag that guy into there. And that's going to be like the bottom of our page. So I'm just going to put him about, I call it a him. Europa sounds like a woman, but I'm not going to be sexist that way. There we go. And I'm going to, sorry about that. It made me choke up. I'm going to, yeah, I think that's okay. I could turn off this grid, but we'll get rid of the grid in a minute because it's making it look kind of funky, right? Let's go ahead and grab this guy as well. This is our buddy, right? I'm gonna hold down Option and stick him in the bottom right. There we go. So he's gonna be looking up this way. We're gonna use his eye line a little bit actually to for some vectors and things, visual vectors. Okay, so I think that is ready to go for that. So now we're gonna add the rest of our text. So that's over here on the right. Go ahead and copy this where it says if you looking for a slightly used galaxy, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna copy that. And I'm gonna go over here and hit T on my keyboard and then paste. And we're gonna have to change this to white right away. So I'm gonna change the fill to white. And then font wise, I think we're going to use, well, I'm going to use Euro Style 36. That sounds like a club. Euro Style. You might not have Euro Style. You probably don't. It's a font that I have, but it kind of fit for this design a little bit. And then I'm going to make the size 36. So if you look, before I resize this a little bit, if you look down in your text formatting, you might have the same thing. By default, when you add text, it is auto width. That's that button, right? Let me zoom, if I can zoom right. The button right there. But you can click that to auto height, or if I resize it right now, it'll automatically do that. So if I grab this, see how I grabbed it and I made it more narrow, right? And then it automatically went to auto height. So what that does is say it tells the tells Figma, you know, how do you want to size this thing, by height or by width. There's also the third option there is fixed size, which would make it leak out and stuff like that. So we're gonna make this 5 columns. So we still have our grid there. So I'm gonna grab this and grab the sides, and you can see, if you guys can see that, there is our columns underneath, right? So that's why we have those in there. So that one's 5 columns wide. That's good, I think. And then we want our other text, which is over here. And it says, if you're looking for a slightly used galaxy, we have some you might like. So I'm going to copy that. And this one's going to be in, oh, I was copying the wrong part. I think I already did that, right? I'm going to copy this part, the last 2 parts there. I'm going to copy that and bring it over here and hit T and paste it. And this one's going to be white again. And did I not paste it? There we go. White again. And this time the font will be, I'm going to use Droid Sans, but you guys can use whatever you want. I'm not sure if you have Droid Sans because I may have installed it. If I have Droid Sans. Yeah, there we go. And the size is 18. So I'm going to go over here and pick 18. And let's grab this guy again. And, oh, I pasted in some, oh, I've got extra. Sorry about that. I think I'm good now. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to put that up there. And we're going to make it the same width, so 5 columns. That looks okay. That text looks a little funky, but that could be because of the resolution I'm at for the video. I think it maybe looks fine. Hopefully it might look a little blurry, but I think that's because of the video. Okay, so it says important. Yeah, you can read what it says. Some terrible stuff about humans. And then I'm going to go up here and grab this button that we made, I think, last time, and just copy it and drag it down here. And we'll stick that right about there. And I think that's good. Yeah. And then let's grab this one more image, and then we'll start to move this stuff around a little bit. So which one do we want to use? Let's use this guy here. So I'm going to grab this, hold down Option, drag it over here. And this one we're going to make 7 columns wide. So I'm going to hold down Shift so it constrains it. Remember, if you hold down Shift, it'll constrain proportions. And he's on the left. And then I'm going to hold down Shift again, and there we go. So there's 7 columns. I don't know if you can see that. Remember, you can always change. If I grab the frame, the desktop frame, and I could go to the layout grid, and I could change this to 25 so I can see a little better. I know that looks terrible, but at least I can see the grid now. So that one is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7, and this one is 5. That one's 5. I think that's good. Let's actually go up here a little bit, just tweak it slightly. Maybe these guys can go up slightly. We'll align those, sure. And then there we go. So we've got that set up the way we want. And yeah, I think that's pretty good so far. All right, so now what if we wanted to make this a little bit responsive? So let's turn off the grid so we can't see it. So right now it looks like that, right? if I grab the edge of this thing and move it, things aren't quite moving right. They are kind of moving what we want, as far as what we want, but it's not really right? This is kind of stuck to the left, but some things are moving. This guy's moving on the right. I don't remember what the Europa is not doing anything. This text is staying the same size. That guy's moving. So that's what I meant where Figma will see that underlying grid and try to say like what you want to do with it or where you want things to go. But we're gonna improve that a little bit on this next version. So we're gonna do one more thing and we're almost done, so don't freak out or anything. I'm gonna grab this guy and drag it down, holding down Option. And we'll just see what it looks like if we remove the grid. So we've got this second version here. And all I'm gonna do here is go over here to the layout grid and delete it. So all I did was, let me show that again. Go over here and hit minus on the grid just to show you what's gonna happen. So now it looks the same, right? But if I grab, there's no grid anymore. If I grab and resize now, what happens? Nothing moves. So some of the constraints were working by default according to the grid. Looks like the only one that's working on this one, which I'm not sure why that one had some constraints. Maybe because I put it in the top left. I'm not sure why. But that's what happens with no grid. It's just going to be, you know, if I resize the container or the web page, if you want to think about it that way, or the browser window, if you want to think about it that way, that's not what we want either. So we're going to make this a little bit more responsive, right? All right, hi. So I'm interrupting that boring guy because there's a new ending for this video. It's kind of like Endgame. You get to go back in time or forward in time. There's some time travel involved. And we're talking about space, so yeah, time travel. So because of changes in the way auto layout works and a couple of other things, the original ending didn't work anymore. Not like I really wanted it to. So you have a new ending. If you were very observant, you probably noticed that there is some new instructions here from the beginning of the video. This top part is the same. Everything that we've done up till now is the same. But this last little part, we're going to do a new ending that makes it exciting, right? One thing I wanted to show you before we do that is here's the instructions, the new instructions, which you should have in your start file, hopefully. You can see they're in a bulleted list. So I don't know if you've seen that before in another video. It's possible, depending on the order and things like that. But the way you do that, if you want, is, or see where that is done, there is the overflow menu, the ellipsis menu here in type. And then down here, you've got a lot of options for type. You've got resizing options, whether you want it to resize fixed or be it auto height or auto width. That's all under there now. Alignment options, decoration, etc. But the one we're actually looking at is this list style. So there's no list style, and then bulleted list and numbered list. So that's how you can do bulleted lists. Yeah, so yeah, you definitely can do that now with the text in Figma. That's been in there for a little bit, but fairly recent. I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure how long ago that was. But yeah, that's all under type settings underneath that button right there. There's also some here, of course, but there's more under there. There's a lot of type stuff. All right, so what we're gonna do is you saw how this did not if I grab this guy here and resize, nothing really happens, right? This guy moves, but the rest of it doesn't. So we wanna make it a little bit sort of responsive or mimic responsive design, where the design will change depending on the width of the browser, since this is a web page. And we're gonna do that using constraints. You can also do that stuff with auto layout, but you will see auto layout in a later video, I think, or an earlier video, depending again on the order of these when you see them. But auto layout has changed, so it looks completely different. Whoa, I just broke everything by doing that. Yeah, don't do that right now. So I'm gonna take this guy right here, and I'm gonna hold down Option and drag it down and make another copy. And the instructions should all be here, so we should be good to go. So I'm gonna select this guy here, the icon, and I'm gonna set it to, I'm gonna try left and top, and we're gonna see what happens at the end here. But I think most of this should work the way we want it to work. It takes a little bit of experimentation. And then the galaxies, the title text there, I'm gonna do that one center top. So again, I'm doing that over here in the constraints section. So I can do center and top. I I think that's what we want. This guy, this rectangle one, this sort of grayed rounded rectangle, we're gonna set that one to scale and top. So yeah, scale here, that's the horizontal, and then top on the vertical. And that should make that hopefully scale as if it's a responsive sort of background color or rounded background. Yeah, so that's good. So here on these three guys, we're gonna hold down Shift and select all three of those, this text box, and the button here, and we're gonna group it. So I'm gonna right click and go group selection. You could also say Command G, and that was one of the things that was kind of behaving differently. So we're not putting it in a frame, we're putting it in a group. And I figured out that's the way to do it for this one, to make it do what I want it to do, if that makes any sense. You're also gonna set that text to left and right and top and bottom. So that instruction is right here. Hopefully these will do what we want. Left and right and top and bottom. And you guys know it takes some experimentation sometimes to get things to work the way you want. This guy here, this galaxy image, we want to do right on the horizontal and top and bottom on the vertical, and we'll see if that does what we want for that one. Europa is pretty simple. We're gonna set that one to center and bottom. And then there are little alien guy, Bill or Bob, or I can't remember what his name is. I forget his name. Right and bottom. So we're gonna set that to right and bottom. And if all goes well, which it probably didn't, but it might be close, I'm gonna click on this guy here to select the frame, and then I'm gonna drag the frame out. Ooh, that is about what we wanted. So you can see what's going on here is that when I drag, this is staying centered. This rectangle is expanding because we set it to scale. So it's stretching so that the corners stay correct, those rounded corners that we had. This text is reflowing, just like it would in a responsive design. The button is kind of breaking a little bit, but we won't worry about that right this second. But the text is responsive. So if that container with that text in real life, if that was a web page, it would reflow throughout there. This guy is staying on the right. I was hoping it would scale. Let's see if we do. Let's try scale on, just for fun. Let's try scale on the horizontal. Oh yeah, that's better, I think. And now it's overlapping a little bit, but you can see how when you make small changes in the constraints, things change. It is scaling now, but it's overlapping this text when that text gets wide. But so maybe we'll put that back to, what did we have? We had right. Yeah, right. Okay, and then this guy is staying in the middle, the Europa, and Bill or Bob is staying in the bottom right. So that is kind of a pretty close to a responsive design there, like you would see on an actual web page, which is kind of what we're going for. So you could do a lot of this stuff, like I said, the responsive things and having things reflow and resize, using auto layout as well, but we're gonna see that in a different video because this one's already too long. It's actually shorter than it used to be, so you're welcome, everybody. But I think that does it for this one. Let me put this back to the same size it was, and I'll talk to you again later.